Hi, Community Connections members. Starre Haas here, and I am so excited because tonight we are kicking off the newest initiative of Community Connections now, and it's called the Everyday Bold Woman. And I will tell you in a moment where this initiative came from, where we're headed, what's behind it. But before I do that, I get to brag on my guest. So, when I started these interviews and started scheduling them, I really wanted to start this conversation. This is meant to be more of a discussion, as opposed to more of a feature interview, which is what I do on Tuesday nights with Community Connections now. But this is meant to be a discussion for everyday bold women, and this came about because with my work on the national stage in women's empowerment, I just could see that the everyday bold woman, so specifically working mothers, homemakers, just general everyday women, were not being spotlighted in the media like they deserve. And they aren't getting the support that they deserve, nor the funding that they deserve, especially during the pandemic. And so this conversation and this initiative starts today. And we have some big plans in the future, plans that will be more than just a discussion, actual tangible support for women in the space, and a guide on how to help them. But those announcements will come later. But when I was thinking of how I wanted to craft this and kick off this conversation, I was like Claire Brown. And so Claire Brown is a really good friend of mine, and I'm lucky because she's based in Little Rock, Arkansas, where I am. And Claire was on the cutting edge of women's empowerment. Really, I mean, I think of you as the pioneer here, Claire. I don't think I've ever told you that, actually. Just as far as the digital space for Arkansan women, she has two incredible women support groups, and I'm going to let her tell you about them. But it's just an incredible network that she's created. And not only has she grown these digital groups and this wonderful network and just network of support of women supporting women, she has now written a book, which I'm so excited and impressed. And I'm going to let her tell you about that as well. So with that, I'm going to kick it over to you, Claire, and let you just share with the entire community the work you're doing and where you're headed, and we'll just go forward from there.
Thank you. It's a lot. And so you may have to continue to ask me questions because I don't know that I'm going to be able to cover all of that. And so, sure. Yes, I founded Little Rock Powerwomen and Little Rock Power Moms. And now we also have Northwest Arkansas Powerwomen as an extension of Little Rock Powerwomen.
I saw that. That's awesome.
Yeah. And so those all started I always say by accident. I don't believe in accidents, but I don't really know how else to say it. And so the catalyst for that was I had been divorced at the time for a little over 2 years. Mm-hmm. And I'd never dated. I'd finally allowed myself to date somebody a little more permanent, fall in love, then went to Europe. And then that person decided to ask me for a lot of money. At this point, that relationship ended in Europe, and I came home by myself. So my whole flight, my whole 27 hours home, I didn't stop writing. And I kept writing about, we are who we surround ourselves with. And why did I do this? And how can I not get here again? And who am I surrounding myself with? And who do I need in my world to shake me loose? And I realized that the biggest lack in my world were the relationships with strong women. Yeah. And so when I got home, one of the first things I did was I contacted some of the moms at my kids' school and some women at church. And I said, listen, nobody wants a group text, and I'm not going to do that, but I need a lot of help. I need a lot of help with carpool. I need mom night outs. And I'm pretty sure we all have a lot of questions about our vagina. And they're like, oh my God, yes. And I said, so I'm just going to make this private Facebook group and we can just check in with it and it'll work. And they're like, oh my God, I'm so excited. And one was like, so wait a minute, can I cuss on Facebook now? My husband won't know. And I'm like, yes.
I did not know that. I love that.
And so there were just 6 of us, and we did a mom night out, and they invited a couple more, and then it went to over 1,500 in 3 weeks, very organically.
Yeah, I remember. It blew up.
Mm-hmm.
It is blowing up.
Yeah, and I mean, it was to the point, I had an assistant at the time, and to the point Facebook shut us down 3 times because they recognized us as spam. And then I also have a international network of real estate agents. I'm a full-time real estate broker here in Little Rock. And so then I also created that platform as Powerwoman of Real Estate, and then created it on an international level. And so then I created that platform. Anyway, so overall, all the groups went international and over 6,000 within less than 10 months.
Wow.
So, yeah, I created a lead capture system that formed a back-end database, because that I should disclaim, I've also been in business coaching for almost 6 years now. And we can get into that more as well, but
that'd be great.
Yeah. And then, so my business planning and modeling started to take place, and I got control of the chaos and, did some formulas around it, and then launched the podcast, and then I continued to write. And the writing, again, was very organic. It was my journal.
Yeah.
But then it was ravenous. Like, I couldn't turn it off. I found myself plugging into the journal every day during the day, and I just couldn't turn it off.
I remember talking to you a few times on the phone, and you were writing, and I was just like, that's so cool that she's so focused and able to spend that time, because it's so hard for so many people to do. And I remember you during that creative process for the book, and it's just been so exciting to see you evolve like you have, and it's like rapid pace. I mean, I'll let you keep going, but it really has. It's been so rapid and successful. So,
well, I also realized that I needed the growth, that I was failing in the dating space, in relationships. I was divorced. I wasn't receiving the outcome that I wanted dating. And I was failing fast and failing hard and failing. It was bad. And so I recognized that I needed to take a break. I needed to stop. So I would quit repeating the patterns that I had created, the patterns of my family, just all sorts of things, so that I could process and heal. So I took off a little over 1.5 years and didn't date. And then writing took up all of my time. I mean, when you don't have your children half the time, and you're used to them occupying and monopolizing your time, then all of a sudden you have all this free space. And so it became easy.
Yeah. That makes complete and total sense. And I mean, I don't know if you can call it free space, because you made use of that free space. I mean, we're friends, and even to hear everything you've done again, I mean, like the podcast, and it's just, it's so incredible, Claire. I mean, the ability to really surrender and realize that you're on a path that isn't working for you, but then to be strong enough to reassess where you're at and come up with an action plan, but even still, people come up with action plans all the time. It's following through with them. You've done so on so many levels. Yeah.
It's looking at the action where we typically fall short. We can recognize the issue. We can see the solution, but then we fall short in taking the action.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think, we're talking about relationships here, and my failure in that. And so And I discuss it all in the book. I go places in the book. I'm very transparent. And I discuss surrender quite a bit. And I recognized that I had to do that. I had to surrender in order to learn the lessons. What I will say is there's so much divorce history in my family that I was not willing to continue that. And so it was either you take this action of surrender or you will continue other actions.
Right.
So it was an easy choice.
Right. I love that. Yeah. That's so well put. So do you mind sharing with everyone the name of your book and where they can find your book?
Yeah. It's called, here it is.
I mean, I know what it is, but I'm going to let you talk about it.
It's called Ring or Fling.
I love the cover. It's so cute.
And you can get it on Amazon. It's on Kindle and paperback. It's also at Barnes and Nobles. So yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Well, so Claire, so we talked offline and we wanted this to be like a coffee discussion for all the viewers here. And you can tell we're a little more laid back tonight and we're just kind of chilling out. And so what I wanted to talk about next is Claire and I have known each other for several years now and, have crossed paths, back and forth with the work we do with women. And I would love to get your take on the everyday bold woman and what your thoughts are on spotlighting, the everyday bold woman and what you would like to see that look like. What are your thoughts there?
So I love the phrase bold woman.
Yeah.
I started in a business coaching course 6 years ago called Bold.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
It stands for Business Objective, Building a Life by Design. And I even traveled over 3 hours to take it once a week, twice. I've taken the course 6 times altogether. So the first time I took it, I tripled my productivity within 1 quarter.
And what course is this? Because I want to look it up.
It's really amazing.
Yeah.
And so I produced what I did in 2015. I produced that same amount in the first quarter of 2016 after taking the course in October.
Wow.
And so it's phenomenal. And so the goal was to be bold. And what I learned something each time. And then of course I went back and I journaled and that's where I learned to journal. I'd never journaled until I went to Bold. So that's when I started writing, was 6 years ago in Bold. And it taught me something new and I learned something very profound each time I took it all 6 times. And so there's a whole journey within Bold, if you will. And the everyday bold woman, I view that as limitless. And I think that is the biggest lesson. I think that, women many times will discuss their worth. Do you know your value? And all these things. And I think the minute that a woman says, well, yeah, I know my worth, I know my value, is the minute she's lying to herself. Because the minute you think you know your value is the minute you're undervaluing yourself. Because if you feel that, I think we don't see what others see. And I hope that we never will.
I love that. Yeah.
And so I think if you think you know your worth, then you're limiting yourself. You're putting limitations on your views, your mindset, if you will. And so I think, and so I think we have to, in order to break barriers of any sort, you have to become limitless in every way of thinking. And so that's the biggest thing. You have to be able to see life. You have to be able to see scenarios. You have to see people with more curiosity, without judgment, in order to be able to see things without limits. And I think that starts with self.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love that. I'm quoting you in the chat. So views the everyday bold woman as limitless.
Yeah.
That is excellent. And you're right. As soon as you say, your worth, that is a barrier. It's a wall that you're building up. I could not agree with that more.
Yeah.
So I know in the work that you do and in the work I do, I work with women. I really have expertise in networking and really power connecting. And so that's where I'm using my expertise to help the everyday bold woman today. And you have so much expertise, just in so many different places, digitally, business, leadership, women's empowerment, of course, your book on dating, and just you have so much to offer. And so I was hoping you could share like some of Claire Brown's top tips with us for the everyday bold women that are listening. Because the goal is that we will be, for the women that are listening, that this is more than just a discussion. At the end of this, we're going to actually talk about how you can get into Claire's groups, how you can reach Claire, how you can reach out to me, so I can power connect you with who you need to be connected with based upon your passion and what it is you're pursuing, so that through networking and leadership, we can help turn your goals into reality. So Claire, I think to get specific.
Okay, good.
If you need to, I feel like you needed me to, because so much. Let's start basic, actually. What are your top tips on defining your passion and actually asking the right questions to determine what that is?
And I have this, people ask me this more often than not. And it's interesting because prior to 3 years ago, nobody asked me this stuff. It was hysterical to me. I'm like, wow, look what Facebook did. So it's like, right? I mean, it's we all have. So if I were to sit down with you and say, when you were a little girl, what did you want to do? What did you want to be? And you may or may not tell me the truth, and that's fine. But if I said to you now, what is it you secretly would love to go do if nobody knew that you would go and do it and you could succeed? Because typically we all have something that we would love to go do. But the fear of failure holds us back from it. Or the fear of what others think, or the fear of embarrassment, or there's some fear that holds us back. So if there was a guaranteed success in it, and there was a guarantee that others would applaud you in it, what would it be? What would you go do? And then answer that. And you don't have to say it to me out loud, but then say, putting it on paper and then making the plan backwards. I mean, I have tools to working backwards. Yeah. And then you work it backwards.
Yes. For everyone listening, I hope you're taking notes. So, I hope all the women on here tonight that you leave this discussion, this candid discussion with Claire and I, and really think about your why. And just like Claire said, if it didn't matter what anyone thought, and you knew you would succeed, and there were no limits, no barriers, what would that be for you? And then I would like to challenge you alongside Claire, like she said, to take out a notebook and write it down. Don't just think about it, actually write it down. And then tomorrow, start drafting that first draft of working backwards. And those are action steps that I've used and trained on. And I've worked in politics, and of course, in politics, you work backwards all the time. You work back from the election.
Creating a business plan.
Yeah, exactly. So I love that. I think that's I think often what you think are the most obvious tips are not obvious, like you think they are. And that's why I like to start at, the basic level, especially with leaders like you, because so many women that I've had the privilege of engaging with, that really helps light bulb moments is when you can break it down like that.
Oh, yeah. And I think it's very important that you don't listen to the word no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody's going to hear it. I negotiate for a living. Do you know how much I've been told no? I mean,
yeah. And if you get into the fun world, which you most likely will, if you have a big, great idea, which I know most of you do, you're going to be told no. It's just a part of how it works. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't hear that word very well.
I know. I've heard it a few times. You've heard it, but I'm seeing you after, you just get even more determined.
That's right. It's like, if you tell me no, it's like pouring gasoline on a fire.
I know.
It's not good.
Yeah. Well, I want to shift this a little bit because I know you're aware. Through the pandemic, we have seen women and mothers leave the workforce in just vast amounts. It's actually been compared to the days of the 1950s as far as women's roles. And I have taken this very just honestly, it hurts my heart every time I talk about it. And I think it's such a complex issue. You and I are both mothers.
See, and I don't see it as complex.
Well,
I just don't.
Why do you not?
Like, if you want to stay at home with your babies, if that's what brings you joy and purpose in life, girl, you go. You do that. But I, for one, am only going to wear an apron as lingerie. Whatever you want.
I mean complex in terms of women that really can't afford to leave the workplace. Those are the complexities I'm talking about. But I agree. Yes. In some ways, I don't see it as complex at all. And, I know so many wonderful women that are homemakers. And I'm actually a homemaker right now. And it is the hardest, one of the hardest jobs there is. And so it's important to talk about women in the workforce. And originally, that's where I was headed, as women in the workforce. But then I was like, screw that. Women at home deserve just as much support, just as much feedback, just as much help, if needed, during this time, because their job is so hard. I don't know about you, Claire, but I collapsed during the short time that I homeschooled my kids. And I was kind of like one of the early parents in my circle here in Arkansas when we came back from Alaska, where I was just like, my kids are going back to school. Mm-hmm. Now, at the time, I was at a full-time job. And I don't know. Our teachers are like heroes, and
they are.
It's so tough. So I want to be really clear. It's like, it's easy to just focus on the working woman and the working mom. And that's super important to me. But in my work, I've seen ignorance of homemakers and their worth. And so this is a space for everybody. And so that's what we're talking about here. So,
well, there have been a lot of studies come out.
Yeah.
That have shown that, both parents that are dual income earners, that 70% of the housework is still falling on the mother, including the homeschooling. That doesn't necessarily make you very efficient at your work environment now, being at home, and it is I don't know, it's bothersome, to say the least.
It is. And we'll dive into this when I continue my work throughout, but I haven't seen employers make the adjustments that are needed to recognize those statistics. And that's a part of this initiative and what I want to bring to the, because That is the truth. Like the majority of responsibility are falling on women, and yeah, couldn't agree more.
I know. I was recently having the same discussion when I was interviewing a podcast guest. And
Yeah.
then, you know, when I'm asking the questions, and all of a sudden she says, "How do you do it?"
And you're like, doing it? That's how I feel when I get asked. I'm like, what makes you think I'm doing it all?
Yeah. We're not talking about me, and I'm not taking you on a tour of my house.
I love that. I love that. I love that.
I tell that to clients all the time. They're like, "Oh, you know, I'm so sorry for the mess." I'm like, "Don't worry, you're not coming to my house."
Right. I know. I hear you. I hear you. It's like giving yourself as a woman permission to just let it go. And
that's the thing. That's the thing. We don't do that. We feel that we have to. And I also think that's why 70% of the housework is probably still being done. Because we feel that it has to be done, and it has to be done a certain way. And I know,
right?
I know it. I can tell you that when I was married and in my 20s, I was not good about this. But I mean, everything was just a certain way, and now I can let go of a lot more because I have to.
Yeah.
There's not an option. I can't do it all, and I do give myself permission to, you know, have a different perspective. A messy house means that my focus and attention is on my children and on my work, and that's where it should be, and that's okay. And if my house is clean, that means my children have been at their dad's. That's okay. You know?
That's okay.
Yeah. That's okay. I need a break, and I'm able to have peace, you know, in a clean house for a weekend. And I need that time.
Yeah.
You know, so I think allowing yourself to breathe, to let it go, and to say it doesn't have to be perfect. And it is okay if I don't put up all the laundry. And it's okay if it stays that way, because I have girlfriends where their laundry stays in their bathtub all year long and they don't take baths. And that's okay. I mean, here's what I also know for sure. What I know for sure, it's worse in someone else's house. That I can go knock on the door of someone with 6 children that has 2 parents at home, and their house will be worse than mine. And it'll be just fine. And so there's going to always be someone worse than me, and I can give myself grace today.
And I love that, like giving grace, because we don't naturally, I think, give ourselves grace. And you're such a testament, you know, with what you're just sharing here tonight to that. And that's so important for everyone to hear, is it is okay. And I mean, like, I was laughing because right now I just remodeled our bathroom / laundry room, and I have a folding table, right? And it's like this beautiful folding table. Well, I hate doing laundry. I've hated laundry my whole life. And I was laughing because right now all of the laundry is pulled out of the dryer, sprawled across the new marble floor on the ground. Clean laundry.
That's okay.
Take it up to the folding table. And I'm pretty okay with that.
That's right. And it's okay. You know, and there's some where that brings them extreme anxiety.
Yeah.
And I get that, you know, I get that.
Sure.
And that's okay. You are going to do 90% of your housework because of that anxiety. Go you. I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to let go a little bit more.
Yeah. Great advice. Gosh, I love talking to you so much. And do you have like any other
because I have failed so bad.
Do you have any other top tips in regard to networking? Do you have any advice with networking?
I don't know. I don't meet strangers.
Yeah. You're very extroverted. I am as well.
To people when I pump my gas.
You what?
I talk to people when I pump my gas.
I do too. And I'm loud too. And people are like, oh my God. I mean, I have people find me like in Target from like the other side, you know?
Yeah, I'm not quiet. And I mean, So just an example, networking, I talked to everybody. Several years ago, I went to go pick up a prescription at the pharmacy, and the pharmacy tech was there, whom I did not know. And I was like, hey, do you need to buy a house? And he was like, just kind of looked at me like, why are you asking me this? And I was like, I'm just a realtor. I was just asking, And he's like, well, yeah, as a matter of fact.
I knew that you were going to come back and say that.
And I was like, oh, great. What's your number? And then I took down all his information, and then so then that weekend I went out, sold him a house with his parents.
That weekend?
Yeah, that same weekend. Went out and sold him a house with his
parents. That's badass, Claire.
Well, then I became buddies with all of them, and then they sent me his sister, and then I sold her and her husband a house. Well, then they referred me to her dad's secretary's daughter, and then I sold her house. Well, then last year she called me to sell that house and the neighbor's house. Sold her another house. I've had 7 transactions off of running my mouth at the farm. So
yeah.
I don't know what to tell you about networking other than you got to open your mouth and you can't have fear of what you're going to say.
All right, everyone, you heard it. You have to open your mouth. So my advice with networking, I'm just going to add on a little bit with that. And Claire's completely right. Of course, you're dealing with 2 extroverts here. But I used to do political training across the country, and not everyone is like Claire and I, and that's a huge gift too. And my advice would be is if you are shy or you are introverted, reach out to me or Claire, reach out to Community Connections or Powerwomen. And my side advice without reaching out to us for help is just write down a script for yourself. Actually take pen to paper. And I really like to work with women and tell them to start out with an introductory email. It feels like a safe zone for them. And take 5 to 10 minutes to write that formula for you and what you want to say. And just the action of what, and it really ties to what Claire was saying about defining your passion and writing it down and then working backwards. When you take the time to write out an introduction and to string your thoughts together, that's really going to help you enter the networking world and power connect. So I just wanted to add that in.
I would say you need to be meeting with 5 people every month.
Yeah,
you can still do that virtually.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know that to some people that's like, oh my God, no, I cannot. But if that's your book club, if it's your wine club, if it's whatever, if it's your coffee group, if it's a breakfast group, whatever it is, if it's supper club, y'all get together and then that's your networking. And then you can say, hey, who do you know that does this? Or I'm needing someone, or I'm needing help with this. And that they may not be in your immediate 5, but they know somebody that knows somebody and they can lead you to that source.
Exactly. And I think, what you're referring to is always have an action item at the end of these meetups. When are we meeting again? When's the deadline? When are we going to talk again? Is there anyone else that now that you know my interests that I should speak to? Who do you think I should talk to? Do you mind sending an introductory email to that person? So there's some top tips from both Claire and I to get you started kind of in this networking world and, not only defining your passion, starting that plan, but starting to be able to voice your plan to the right people. Because like Claire said, in the words of Claire, you have to open your mouth. If you dream big, you have to speak. You have to put your ideas out there. And so that's why we're here and why I'm going to be bringing you these experts and leaders. We're going to have a digital and media expert next week, Zenaida Mann, and she's going to have some top tips as well. So that's what we're here to do, is to help you get these ideas rolling. And like I said, this conversation doesn't just end here. Claire and I are both available to reach out to. Please check out Claire's Literock Power Women's group and Literock Power Moms group. How big are they, Claire? I mean, they're like thousands and thousands of women at this point.
Literock Power Women has over 7,000. In Central Arkansas. Power Moms has over 2,000, I think. know those numbers. Then Arkansas, it just launched, and it's close to 500.
How much does it have?
It's almost 500, I think.
Yeah, it's going to blow. There's so many cool women. All across Arkansas and everywhere, but I love Northwest Arkansas. So I'm so excited for you that chapter is launching there. That's just great work. Well, great. Well, Claire, I'm going to go ahead and just start bringing us to a close, but I want to thank you for accepting my invitation to be the very first guest. It means so much to me. And I love to ask the guests, just before they sign off, are there any last words? And then I also love to ask if you have a call to action for the viewers, whatever that may be. So
I don't know of any last words. The call to action is, if there's, the podcast is found on Apple, it's on iHeart, it's on Google, it's on it's on 15 different platforms. So there's a variety of topics that you can find. And
what's the name of your podcast? Because I'm going to put it in the chat.
It's called Powerwomen.
Yeah, that's
all one word.
Yep.
One just released today with Sarah Catherine Gutierrez.
I love her.
In regards to money and failure.
Yeah.
It's a really good episode. But and then there's the book on Amazon, and then the groups. But then I'm also a realtor. So how can I help?
That was perfect. Those are your last words. That was perfect.
Yeah. How can I help?
How often do you have a new episode on your podcast? Because you have
2 weeks.
When is it?
Every 2 weeks.
Awesome. Because there was an incredible article that came out recently, and Claire was like, "Oh, I'm interviewing that, coming out." I was like, that's awesome.
Yeah. The author of the book, Power Moms. Yeah.
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 There we go.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Where is it? There we go. Joanne.
How mothers navigate work and life. Power Moms.
Yeah, so I read it and then interviewed Joanne, and it will air in 2 weeks.
I can't wait. Yeah, I listen to your podcast all the time, and it's one of my favorites. So, well, thank you, Claire. This has just been such a dream, and I know we'll be talking again in the future. And thank you, everyone who tuned in tonight. And like I said, us telling you that we're here to help you, and I'm here to help you on the Community Connections platform, and Claire has her platform. I'm serious about it. There is too. That's the work that we do. So that this was helpful. I hope you take these top tips into action. And when you do, I want to hear about it in the group. I'll be prompting to hear how it goes, and we will just go from there. So next Thursday at 6 p.m. Central Time, we will be meeting with the managing director of the Black Women's Business Collectives, Nada Mann, and she is also a digital and media expert and strategist. And she has already dropped in the group and is asking all of you to please drop your questions to her so she can actually prepare and be on standby to answer your questions. So now that Claire has walked you through how to get started on your why and, work your plan backwards, be thinking about digital media, because that's a big part of this, and those questions to ask the Nada next week. So thank you so much, Claire. I'm so happy for you. I'm so proud of you. And thank you just for all you've done for me and so many women. And I know you're going to keep doing this incredible work.
Thank you so much.
Yes. All right. Well, have a wonderful night, and we'll talk soon.
Okay. Thanks.